Kilmar Abergo Garcia, a Maryland father, was wrongly deported to El Salvador by the Trump administration, despite a 2019 court order protecting him from such violent action. The U.S. Supreme Court then unanimously ruled 9-0 that the government would have to facilitate his return back to the U.S. Instead of complying, the administration has retaliated. They have brought charges against Kilmar for participating in a migrant smuggling ring, based on a 2022 traffic stop in Tennessee. Bodycam footage of that stop showed no evidence of wrongdoing beyond a suspended license, yet it's being used as the cornerstone of their case. The facts directly contradict the DOJ's claim that Garcia was part of some elaborate, sophisticated transporting ring, as it seems he didn't even bother to take the basic step of keeping his documentation up to date. And the DOJ's primary witness? An alleged co-conspirator facing charges of his own, who received immunity for implicating Kilmar. Even a senior federal prosecutor resigned, citing concerns that the indictment was politically motivated. He would be the second public official to resign over the proceedings of this case. This isn't just about Kilmar, it's about how the capitalist state functions. When it makes a mistake, even one as violent as deporting someone it had no legal right to remove, it doesn't correct it, it retaliates. It deploys the legal system not to serve justice, but to reassert control and preserve legitimacy. That's what these bogus charges are. They're not about safety, they're not about truth, they're about making an example of someone who disrupted the state's business happenings. Under capitalism, the state's job isn't to protect people. It is to protect capital through courts, cops, prisons, borders, and the media. That is what Marx meant when he said, the state manages the affairs of the ruling class. The state is not neutral. It disciplines, it disappears, it preserves the smooth flow of capital by criminalizing anybody who disrupts it. It places blame on vulnerable groups to serve as scapegoats for its systemic failings. As Angela Davis notes, imprisonment is increasingly used as a strategy of deflection of the underlying social problems: racism, poverty, unemployment, lack of education, and so on. That is why Kilmar was targeted. He, like so many other migrants, is being used as a scapegoat, a symbol, a stand-in, someone to punish so the state can deflect from its own failings, inherent to the capitalist system. Deportation becomes a spectacle. The message is, this is who to blame. This is who we will disappear for you. It's not about justice, it's about maintaining the illusion of control. But the lie isn't working. People are resisting. That is why ICE is ramping up. They're sweeping through LA workplaces, shops, and homes. That's why we're seeing armored military vehicles on suburban streets, so-called less than lethal weapons that still maim protesters, Palantir drones circling overhead, every three-letter acronym agency in military gear like they're entering a war zone, because for the state, resistance, dissent, is war, and it responds accordingly. People in LA aren't just protesting, they're resisting. They're out here shutting down the streets, surrounding government buildings, saying loud and clear, we will not be silent while the state enacts violence. This isn't just a blip in a news cycle, it's a community standing up, refusing to let injustice fade into the background of ever-changing headlines designed to make you pay attention to what the capitalist class decides that day or week. And yeah, some people are responding by breaking things, setting fires, destroying property, confronting police. And every time someone asks, why can't they just protest peacefully? But peace, in this system, means silence. As Angela Davis writes, we have to learn how to think and act and struggle against that which is ideologically constituted as normal. What liberals and conservatives call peace is really just the absence of visible disruption. It is not an end to the violence. The type of violence that they have been convinced is normal and okay continues. Liberal and conservative opponents love to bring up property damage caused by these protesters, the disruption to people's schedules, the cost of police, etc. But this is not violence. They do not care to speak up about violence. They care more about order than human beings. To be sure we're on the same page, the real violence is when police use chemical weapons on the citizens whose taxes pay their salaries. The real violence is when ICE kidnaps our neighbors off the streets without due process. The real violence is when the state subjects those kidnapped people to indefinite and dehumanizing treatment in a foreign concentration camp. The real violence is when those same fascist state representatives, kill over 1,700 people a year due to excessive force, disproportionately Black, brown, and homeless people. If opponents of this form of protesting are so hell-bent on talking about violence, they should talk about that. Remember when Dr. King talked about the white moderate? He said they are more devoted to order than to justice, preferring a negative peace without tension over a positive peace with justice. It's not about peace, it's about comfort. They'd rather people suffer quietly than face the discomfort of confronting systemic issues. Abolition isn't about making the powerful comfortable. It is about liberating the oppressed. Angela Davis reminds us that abolition challenges the idea that safety comes from the state's punitive systems. So when people rise up, disrupt status quo, it's not because they despise peace. It is because they understand that true peace cannot exist in a system built on oppression and violence. Those in the streets aren't just fighting for their own rights. They're fighting for a future where none of us have to live under constant surveillance and fear. Even if you don't see it now, they are fighting for you too. Because these systems, police, ICE, militarized borders, they don't stop with one group. Eventually, they come for everyone not shielded by privilege. So stop asking why people rebel. Instead, ask what kind of violence they're rebelling against. Ask why rebellion is the only thing that makes people in power flinch. And they're not alone. We saw it in Melbourne, where protesters disrupted the Land Forces Weapon Expo, calling out the global arms industry. We're seeing it at borders all around the world, in Gaza, in prisons, in workplaces. Different struggles, same enemy. As David emphasizes, our histories never unfold in isolation. Often we discover that those other stories are actually our own stories. Because this isn't a malfunction of the system, it is the system. It won't be voted away, it cannot be reformed. That is why abolition isn't just a slogan, it is the only path forward. The system is showing us exactly what it is, exactly how it operates. So the question is, what will we do with that knowledge? Our response has to be collective. Organize where you are, show up for the people being targeted in your city, prepare for when the Gestapo visit your town, build with your neighbors, link your struggle to others locally and internationally, because we win nothing unless we do it together. And none of us are free until we are all free. And some final words of hope from Angela Davis. She reminds us, it is in our collectivities that we find reservoirs of hope and optimism.